Hi, my name is Juliana, and today we're going to be turning your app into a revenue generating template. How are we going to do that? Well, first part is we're going to Dockerize your app, and then we're going to submit it to NodeOps as a marketplace template. So let's get started. Okay, now I'm going to take you into my desktop. Okay, here we are at my desktop. I've got nothing running right now. The first step is to have an app. Luckily, I have one ready for you. If you don't already have one, you can start with mine. And it is a simple to-do app. Let me get it pulled up. Okay, here we are. Here's the NodeOps Template example app. It's an example application. It's a simple to-do app. The instructions are down here below, really well written. And feel free to clone it and use it as your sample application app if you don't already have one. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to Dockerize this app. And I'll show you how to do that. Okay, so first we're going to clone it and pull it into our IDE. I'm using Cursor. So I already have it cloned here. I'm on the main branch, and I think I'm all up to date. Yes, I am. And now let's run it. See what it looks like. All right, this is what the app looks like. Amazing, wonderful application. It links you to the source code over here. You can follow us on Build on NodeOps. We actually just released a grant program, so do check it out. And a quick link to our docs. Here is an example of a environment variable. This is the next application. So we'll be teaching you how to set environment variables in your application. You can connect your wallet. Cool. I'm connected and I can add a new task. Okay, build template. I can also hit enter. What are the points? Cool. And you can check these off. All right, you can also hit refresh and it will stay there because it's linked to your wallet and saved locally in your browser. You can delete these, also hit refresh, and they're deleted. Cool, awesome. All right, let's go back to the code and now let's Dockerize it. Okay, if you have never Dockerized an application before, this is a tutorial for you. First thing we're going to do is download Docker. I've downloaded Docker here. I clicked download for Mac. And once it's downloaded, then you're going to run it. So I already have it downloaded here. I have a few different applications going. You can see the containers you have running and the different images I own. So if you have Docker running locally, you're going to see it on your bar up here. So the next step we're going to do is to go into Docker Hub and we're going to create an account. You can go ahead and sign up. You can sign up here with your email or Google or GitHub. I prefer GitHub. And once you have an account, you're going to sign in. Now we've logged in to Docker. Now we're going to create a Docker access token. To do that, you come up to the top right corner and click on your profile. Come down to account settings. Come into personal access token on the left and click generate new token. Now you're going to give it a name. I'm going to call mine Cursor login token. It doesn't really matter. It's just for you to reference here. I'm not going to set an expiration date, and you're going to set, this is very important, set the permissions to read and writes, or you're not going to be able to push from your command line. Click generate. All right, and it's going to give you two commands to run. You're going to copy the first one and bring it into your terminal. What this is going to do is you're going to log into your Docker from your terminal so that you can generate and push Docker images. Okay, now we're going to go into Cursor. Okay, here we are in Cursor. I'm going to paste the command that we just copied and hit enter. Now let's go back for the token. And then I'm going to do the same. I'm going to paste and hit enter. You're not going to be able to see the password, but it's there. Hit enter. Great. So now that you've logged into Docker from your terminal, the next step is to generate your Docker file. Before you make a Docker image of your app, you must have a Docker file. So in the example application, this is what it looks like here. It's just a set of instructions on how to build your app. One thing we can do is to run the Docker container locally and just test it out and see if it's working before we publish it. You can do this in the command line with this command. You can do this in the command line by running docker build. Okay, so what this command is doing is docker build, you're passing it a tag, which is a name, calling it my app, and the period means this current directory. Okay, hit enter. So Docker's doing its thing. It's running, it's building, pulling the necessary base files. What's happening here is it's going through each step to build your application. Sometimes it takes a while. Okay, to save you some time, we've cut to the end. That took about 3 minutes. So now that it's running, let's check on it. Let's open Docker. And if it's running successfully, we should be able to see it. So now that we've built the image, now we're going to run it. To run it, you're going to type in, you're going to use this command, docker run -p for the port, and give it port 3000 to 3000. You're mapping it from the application's port, whatever you've hard-coded it to your local 3000. These could be different variables. And then the name of your image, which we named my app. Okay, looks like that started running. Let's take a look at it. Let's take a look at it. Okay, awesome. So it looks like it's still running. Even though we're in a container, it's still got the same variables. It's still got the same state that we've stored it at. It's still got the same state from before. Great. All right, so now that we have successfully built a Docker image, now we're gonna publish it. Once we publish it, it's now accessible to the public. So now let's go back into Cursor. Great, so you've just built your first Docker image. Next, we are going to publish it. To do that, we go back into the terminal. I'm just going to exit the application. And we're going to use this command. You're going to run docker build with the same command from before. So you're building your Docker image again. But this time, instead of passing it your application name, you're going to give it your username and then the name of your application. Then we're going to give it a tag. So over here, kind of like a version number, you can say v1 or 0.01, whatever your naming convention is. I'm just going to stick with v1. And then we're going to give it, I'm going to say it's the current directory. We're going to give it the push flag to push up. And then we're going to give it the -- platform flag with Linux AMD 64. So this last flag, platform Linux AMD 64, is unique to NodeOps. In order to have a template running on our architecture, we currently only support Linux AMD 64. If, let's say, you forget to pass this flag, it will build it on Linux ARM 64, which is not the same and would error out on our platform. So make sure you have this, then hit enter. So what this command is doing two things. It's building your Docker image just like the first command locally, but it's also pushing it to your Docker Hub. So once it's on Docker Hub, it's now available to the public. Okay, welcome back. So now it's all built out. To do that, we can go into Docker Hub and check. I'm going to go back to my browser and we're going to pull up Docker Hub. Now go to my hub. Okay, and let's refresh. Okay, and we're back. Turns out Docker's down, so we're going to continue with that recording and just skip the part where we check Docker Hub because we already have it up. Now we're going to go into part 2 of the tutorial. Okay, so now you have just published your first Docker image publicly. Now we're going to submit it into the NodeOps Marketplace. To do that, go to nodeops.network and on the top right, click Launch App, go down to NodeOps Cloud. If you don't already have an account, go ahead and make one. I'm going to log in with my MetaMask account. Okay, now you're on the front page. Now, inside of the NodeOps platform, go over to the left, click on My Templates. And if this is your first time, you may not see the screen. You will actually see a sign up screen to become a contributor. And you're gonna have to fill that form up. It's gonna be basic information, just your Telegram, a profile picture, a little bit about your GitHub, and should be pretty simple. Once you submit it, then you're gonna see the screen. Now go to the top right and click Create Template. Okay, so here's where you would upload the icon image of your templates and the name, the description, category overview, instructions, use cases, who's going to be using your template. So when it gets on the marketplace, you want your users to know what it is. And so you want to be as descriptive as possible. So coming back to the example app, which is my to-do app, you want to have a pretty descriptive icon. Oh, I'm going to use this one. I think this check icon is a good representation of a to-do app. As for the name, I think Task Manager or to-do app would be good. To-do app. Okay. Give it a description. Then I'm going to select a category. You can choose up to 5. I think I am probably an other. Alright, there's going to be an option for you to submit a tutorial link. I highly recommend it. GitHub URL if it's open source, and your Twitter URL and Telegram. Then down here, you have an option to toggle this template. So if we turn it off, it's now public, which means the community, once it's accepted and approved, the community can see it in the marketplace. If you toggle it as private, it's only something that you have access to. So you can deploy it locally and only the owner can deploy it. So in this case, you can actually start private and then come back to it and turn it public later if you just want to test the application. At any point, you can always save as a draft and come back to it later. So I will first start private to show you what that looks like. After that, here's where we submit the YAML file. So our templates run on a YAML architecture, And off the get-go, this is an example YAML that you can use as a guide with lots of helpful comments. From the top, the YAML is pretty straightforward. You give it a version number and you give the service a name. In this case, it's Jupyter Notebook, but here it would be something like my app, like what you've named it. And then under image, it would be your username. This is where your public Docker image would be with my app. And I'll give it actually my version number. Yep. Okay. And I would recommend keeping this and this pretty consistent. You could totally do a different type of tag, but I feel like that's, too much. Command can be empty by default if your Docker file already has the command to start it, because that's already going to be built in over here. Arguments would be anything that you want appended on top of the command. Ports would be whatever port your application starts off with. In our case, it would be port 3000. Okay. You can probably leave these empty. You definitely want to expose it. This one, the only case where you would not expose it is if you were running this internally and there was like multiple stacks of services. Currently, we can support up to 5 services, so you can have like a front end, back end, and 3 databases, something like this. And so you don't want to expose those databases to the public, but they would have their own port, for example. Moving on, the environment variables. So in our case, that was called next public test, right? And there you can also set up a default. This sets your environment variable with a name and a value. This value in curly brackets means that whenever someone goes to deploy your template, they must enter this value. This forces them. If they don't, you can also give it a default. But if you leave it out, then it's required. In our case, we can probably just set this to hello. And then we don't need this. Cool. Now for resource configuration. This is how much resources you think your application would need. Too low and your application will crash. Too high and it becomes too expensive for the deployer to run. Our templates are run by size. So if your application uses a lot of compute, then it gets more expensive. So you kind of want to, aim for something in the middle. Okay. And when everything all looks good, you can go ahead and click next. Cool. So now we have a private template sitting over here. We can click into it. And there's a number of things we can do here. We can publish it. And what we've done now is now we're able to deploy it. We can deploy it locally. Now we can deploy this template locally. Remember, this template is still private, so only the owner can deploy it. To check if it's working, you click on deploy, then you can also just click continue from here. If you have like a specific, this page, now you can deploy the template. If you wanted to deploy your template privately, just to test if it's working, you can click deploy templates and click continue. And you can see our environment variables has been set to default hello, which we can edit. Okay, we have the default configurations that was passed in, and we can click next. By the way, if you're a developer building on a platform, please ping us for a promo code. Okay, once in, let's say, let's say we're happy and our application is working and we're ready to publish. That's when we come back over here and click on this button, and now you can go ahead and make your template public. Once you switch it to public, now we can submit it and it becomes under review. Now this application is going through a review process, and once it's approved, it then becomes public to the template. This application is going through a review process. Once it gets approved, the community will have access to it, and then your application is live. Once your template is live, it goes into the template marketplace on the left. When it's live, you'll see your application here. If we click into it, this is what my app looks like. Okay, and that's all for the tutorial. Congratulations on your first Docker image, and hope you build lots of cool templates in the marketplace. Don't forget to follow us on YouTube and our Twitter account, Build on NodeOps. We just launched a $5 million grant program, so if you're looking to build on NodeOps, ping us and definitely apply. Thank you.